Welcome to the Abundance Journey, the show that helps spiritual entrepreneurs create an abundance mindset that accelerates revenue. Secretly, everything you experience in your life is actually abundance. Once you understand how to activate abundance, you find yourself in flow with your business and clients, so it's easy to create the revenue you want. The Abundance Journey is the only show that activates abundance for you, so you enjoy rapid results in your business. Here's your host, the Abundance Ambassador, Elaine Starling.
So do you really get, deep inside, this deep inner knowing that abundance is everywhere? Yeah, it is. You can access abundance from every single situation because there's always insight and kind of a reminder that you get to choose how you show up to receive abundance. We are all leaders of our own lives, as well as leaders in our families and with our friends and our communities and our businesses. How you show up matters to everyone. And you know me, I'm a big believer that how you show up in partnership with the divine, that matters most of all. You're not in this alone. You're getting a lot of support. You just have to remember to access that support. And you know me, I absolutely love learning different approaches about abundance from other experts. And that's why I am so thrilled and delighted that we get to chat with Eric Pfeiffer today. This guy's incredible. I love his background. Get a load of this. Eric is the founder and CEO of MPWR Coaching. He's been in the leadership development space for over 15 years. He's helped build a multi-million-dollar coaching business and trained over 150 coaches worldwide. He founded MPWR Coaching in 2019 to expand his efforts to unlock leaders' potential so they can grow their organizations and teams in new, never imagined ways. He's known for creating one of the only leadership operating systems available today, which empowers the true engine of any business. It's people. Well, Eric's a bit of a slouch, so he's only published 2 life-transforming books, thank you very much, Leadership Gravitas and Transform Your Trajectory. Each book introduces simple tools that give leaders a competitive advantage in any context. Now, what I really, really, really love and admire about Eric, he speaks and leads out of the overflow of his own journey. He is a fierce practitioner of what he teaches, and he is completely committed to becoming a better version of himself every day. Eric, I am so honored you could join us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Elaine. And I just want to say I love your energy, and I am over the moon excited about where this conversation is going to go.
I know, it's really fun. It's really fun because I have this practice of starting with an intention, which is how we want to feel and what we want to create together in conjunction with the divine, with the God of your understanding. We're in partnership, and we're kind of like traffic cops. We use the intention to say, here's where we want the energy to go together through this conversation, because it's not a script. It's not like we have all the answers ready-made. As we're in the moment, ideas will flow that are just going to be so incredibly powerful and fulfill on this intention that we're stating. It's kind of like typing into a spiritual GPS. That's how I like to think of it. I have a structure that I use. I always start with in love and light, because to me, that's acknowledging that the God of your understanding is an active participant and present. It's kind of like, hey, so glad you could join us. Then we state the intention. Then I always say thank you. And at the very end, I say it is done as a reminder to us that we're done typing. Then comes the interesting part. We're going to hold this intention in total silence for 78 seconds. People always say, why so long? Well, it's because the current research shows the average human has a shorter attention span than a goldfish. Yeah, those suckers can stare at you longer than you can stare back. So in order to really make sure the divine is tuned in and tapped into what we're doing, we're going to hold that intention for 78 seconds. Not only does it connect us with the divine, with the God of your understanding, it also connects all of our energies. Whether you are watching this time or 2 years from now, it doesn't matter. The divine is everywhere and every when, and uniting our energy is really powerful. So a couple things that make it super easy to hold your intention. Pick 2 or 3 words out of the intention that just feel expansive, uplifting, empowering to you. It's exactly what you want to experience. Hone in on those 2 or 3 words and just think them over and over again in your mind, over and over again. Also, pay attention to what's going on in your body, because your body is this great big antenna, a receiver. And all we're looking for is that the energy is starting to move. So you might get goosebumps. You might get little heat going through your body. I get pixelated sometimes. I just feel like my whole body is dissolving and expanding a bit. That's great. That's just a sign that the divine is on the job, ready to go, ready to play. Speaking of which, Eric, you ready to play?
I'm ready.
Awesome. In Love and Light, we hold the intention that we lead ourselves through our connection with the divine, making it easy for the divine to express through us while enriching our lives. Thank you, divine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done. We give thanks, and so it is. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing. What was your experience like?
Well, the 2 words I immediately connected with as you were reading that intention were connection and enriching. And those just happen to, in some ways, capture deep passions for myself. The desire to connect with people and to help people connect with one another, because I think that's what makes life go round and round.
Yeah.
And then enriching, that our connection so often leads to pain, heartache, frustration, and that we could learn to connect with one another, even in the workplace, believe it or not, in a way that actually enriches one another's lives and careers and trajectories. To me, that's what I love, and that's what I want to fight for.
That's awesome. I had a really incredible experience too, because I was thinking about enriching our lives. And I got this visual. I don't always get visuals, but I got a visual of like a stone dropping into a pond. And the ripples that go out, usually they dissipate in height and all that as they go out. This time the ripples got bigger and bigger and bigger. So this whole thing that we're creating together is going to ripple out and create a massive difference in the world. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Now, Eric, I know that you are really dedicated to what you're doing. You're super passionate about helping people become the best leaders they can be. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Why are you so passionate about this, so determined and focused on this?
Well, my journey started in my the conscious part of my journey, I think, started in my mid to late 20s as I was entering into the workforce, and naturally gravitated toward roles and responsibilities that included the responsibility of leadership, taking care of other people, managing a team, running projects. And I knew I loved those opportunities, but I very quickly came face to face with my own inadequacies, my shortcomings, my failures. And I, as anybody, I was committed to growing through them. And so I was reading everything and trying to gather as much information as I could that would potentially help me grow through those different dynamics. even, did some graduate studies in the area of leadership and development. And again, felt a little bit like, man, I'm not really sure I know what I'm supposed to be doing. Because at the end of the day, I didn't know how to answer the question, what does it mean for me to be a good leader or a great leader? At one point in my late 20s, I ended up meeting an older gentleman who was about 25 years ahead of me in life. And I was immediately struck by the qualities of this man and the way he operated. And I ended up spending quite a bit of time kind of following him around to different, events that he was at. And it seemed that any way I could slice him, he would, kind of bleed the same. He just, under incredible moments of pressure and stress and strain, he operated in a particular way. And in the same way, when everything was going well, he operated in that same way. There's a level of consistency that if my life often felt like these, high highs and low lows, his seemed to be much more subtle in that wavelength. And I remember thinking to myself, there's something about this person that I want to learn how to operate this way. And so I ended up moving our family to South Carolina. We spent the better part of 10 years apprenticing under this man. It just so happened that he had started a coaching business. He wanted to work with leaders in a particular area, and he was trying to figure out how do I teach other leaders how to develop the qualities that he had developed. And I was just there for myself. I just knew that for me to be able to operate at higher levels of my own leadership, I needed to spend time with this man, because proximity is a very powerful part of our growth journeys. And in that process, also fell in love with the work of coaching and realized, gosh, you know what? The work of coaching is really about being on our own journeys and growing and developing in whatever area of life or business that we're trying to grow and develop in, and then turning around and sharing both our failures and successes, but the learning that comes out of that with the people that we're coaching. And so I've just continued on that path of committing myself to developing the skills and learning the practices so that I can become a better version of myself every single day. I remember committing to my wife when we got married. I said, hey, listen, I've learned some things. There's some things I still need to learn. I can't promise you that I'll always do great, but I can promise you that I will work my butt off to become the better version of myself every day. And that's what I can commit to you. And then along with that, I've enjoyed the process of being able to partner with other people who are on a similar journey. I mean, our journeys are all different in some ways, but they're all similar in other ways. And so there's nothing that satisfies or fulfills me more than partnering with another human being as they're engaging their own challenges and helping them discover, in probably a way that you would agree with, helping them discover even within themselves their connection to the divine, however we want to term it, but discovering within themselves that there is a better version of them in them that just needs time to mature, to flower, to come out. And if they'll take that time and they know how to cultivate their internal life, it's unbelievable what the potential in people really is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, you said something that I don't know if you said this, but I thought it was absolutely brilliant. One of the questions I always ask, because of course this is called The Abundance Journey, and here you are, a coach working with leaders, and sometimes people don't kind of get how that jibes together. So I always ask people, how do you define abundance? And I am going to ask you that. What I heard you say was there are certain qualities that you can exhibit where you are being, pardon me, you are being abundance.
Yes.
And I think that's incredibly powerful because sometimes we backslide a little bit. I do want to share a quick story because I recently learned about the difference between my human self and my higher self. And I think that really comes into play here. I noticed that when I'm in my human self, I'm immediately snapping to judgment. And it's usually I'm right, you're wrong. And the more I can convince you that you're wrong, the more right I am. How funny is that? And I'm reacting in a very emotional and always not always very supportive way.
Correct.
So that's my human self. My higher self, the exact same thing is happening, but instead of this emotional, visceral judgment, I'm just observing. It is what it is. And I notice what's happening. I know what's going on. And instead of being emotional or judgmental about it, I take the time to respond with supportive love and grateful compassion.
Wow.
That makes all the difference in the world. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I want you to decide, what does abundance mean to you, given the kind of work that you do with your clients? How are you helping them experience and be abundance?
It's a great question, Elaine. I often use this analogy. I say, when you look at a forest of these beautiful, like redwood trees or pine trees, and you see this big, massive forest, as far as the eye can see, rolling over multiple hills, we look at all that, and I think sometimes we forget to ask the question, where did all that come from? Did somebody come and plant each individual tree? Did they position them all just the right way so they could all grow and flourish and thrive? But I remember hearing somebody one time say this very powerful thing. They said, it's important that we remember that everything in the tree is found in the seed. When you think of these massive redwood trees or pine trees, you just think, gosh, they're overwhelming when you're standing at the bottom of one of them. And you think, gosh, these are so big. But when you see the size of the seed from which that tree comes, and then you think of the forest, that the entire forest came potentially from one seed that produced a tree, that produced more seeds, that produced more trees, until there's this vast forest. And so what I remind myself all the time, and leaders that I'm working with, is that there is an abundance of whatever we're looking for in life that is actually already existing within each one of us. But if we're not sure how to cultivate those seeds, if we're not sure how to allow ourselves to truly flourish, then what happens is we are the ones who actually get in our own way. We are the ones who undermine our growth and the opportunities that are in front of us. So when you talk about abundance, I tell people the opposite of abundance is scarcity. And a scarcity mentality is there's not enough to go around, and so I have to hoard, I have to steal, I have to step on other people's shoulders to get to where I want to be. And that's actually what diminishes our life. That's what actually undermines our life. And so when I remind people that, hey, everything in your life that you could ever want or need is actually contained within yourself already. It sets people free to realize I don't have to be what I call a taker, try to take what I need from everybody else around me. I can actually find my sense of identity, security, acceptance, approval, actually from within myself. I remind people all the time that the person whose opinion of you that matters more than anybody else in the world is your own opinion. And so when we are able to cultivate a self-perception that sets us free from needing to be takers, then guess what happens? We now find ourselves free to be givers, to be contributors to the world around us. And that's what I think allows leaders to elevate their performance, to reach what I would call elite leadership status, is that they are doing the work on themselves that now sets them free to empower others. That's what MPWR actually stands for. It's empower coaching, but to empower the people around us. And people, every leader I've ever worked with always says the same thing. Eric, the more that I am free from the scarcity mindset, from having to take, and I'm able to give, I'm actually finding a far greater degree of satisfaction and fulfillment and a sense of purpose, which oftentimes was missing before.
So true. So true. I got to share just a couple of things with you because it's really funny. I always talk about gratitude as the beginning of everything. Gratitude is the seed to your abundance tree. Yeah. If you want to feel loved, you have to feel grateful for the connection. If you want to, feel anything, you have to feel gratitude first. Without gratitude are all the less comfortable emotions. Yeah. They're there to serve us, to remind us. Go back in gratitude.
Yes, and gratitude in a really interesting way, because I've been practicing different ways of practicing gratitude over the years. What gratitude does is it immediately opens my eyes and my awareness to how much is already in my life and how much is already available. That scarcity mindset, it's almost like it puts blinders around me so that all I can see is what I don't have, the limitations that are in front of me. But when I practice gratitude, all of a sudden I wake up to the fact that, man, I have so much already in my life that I have not been paying attention to, which I think then perpetuates a new mindset, which is, and there's still so much more out there available for me.
Yeah, life often feels like an infomercial. But wait, there's more. But wait, there's more. It's like it's never ending. You said something that I thought was really interesting, that the leaders that you're working with, they realize that when they are much more intentional about what they're doing, and it's coming from an inside out perspective, they're much more effective, they're much more efficient, they get a lot more done. It's really interesting that you say that, because I've worked with a lot of people over the years, and especially folks who are in business, running businesses. Usually the first thing they want is revenue. Show me the money. Yesterday would be good. And then when the money's come in, the revenue's come in, my reputation is going to be made. Everybody will know who I am. I'll have people lined up around the block to take orders. Yeah, this is great. And once those two things are in place, I'll have relationships I've wanted for years. Me and Oprah, BFFs, And then if you really push them, and you're like, okay, well, what else would you like? What else would be good? What else could you enjoy? Finally, they say, I have to earn it first. I don't deserve it right now, but someday I'll be able to create this incredibly rewarding experience just by being who I am.
Yes.
And sharing my gifts.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing is, it always starts with your rewarding experience. That's why people want a relationship with you to begin with. Okay. And once you've got the relationships, you don't own your reputation. Your relationships own your reputation. You own your standards. And when those three things are in place, the revenue is unavoidable. It's a byproduct. It is not the focus.
I love it.
Yes. So anyway, I know we are so similar in how we think. Now, obviously, you're working with a certain caliber of person. They've gotten to this level, this realization that they're ready for more, and they're just not sure how to get there. What is a common symptom that you notice people are struggling with before they start to work with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's so many different symptoms. I'll share a few of the ones that I run across very often. One is there are, to use the framework that you just shared, one of them is a kind of ongoing, consistent deterioration of relational connectivity within teams or organizations. People get burned out on the toxicity of gossip and back channeling and triangulation. And even if they can't put language to those, they tell me those are the experiences they're having. So it's almost always to do with relational connectivity. That's always in some ways tied to reputation. Why? Because now the leader starts to feel that they start to ask the question, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I fix this? Why can't I solve these relational or these connecting problems? And so they start to feel inadequate, insecure, not up for the task. That oftentimes triggers what people now refer to as imposter syndrome. How can I be the CEO, president, founder, senior executive, director of this team, this organization that has already experienced some measure of success, and yet I feel like there is a gap between this problem and my ability to actually address the problem? So it starts to dip into their own sense of their own reputation. And a lot of times leaders start to feel like, gosh, if anybody knew that I didn't know how to solve this, then what would they think of me? Would that disqualify me from being able to operate in this particular role? So that's the first one, is the relational connectivity within the workplace. The second one tends to be they're dealing with deep personal sense of insufficiency and inadequacy. And then probably the third one is they are running up against what I would call some external feedback. It could be a board that's challenging them in terms of their high turnover rate. It could be other executives that are saying, man, you're a big mean person. I don't like working with you. It could be even their spouses challenging them. How can you run this multi-million-dollar business, but you can't even come home and be with our kids? They're running up against some external feedback loop that is saying something's wrong, and they get to the point where they realize I don't know what it is that's going on. I'm not have no idea then how to solve that problem. And so I just need help. And I would say a lot of that ultimately boils down to leadership. For most people is experienced as a very lonely, isolating endeavor. And the higher people go in leadership, we often think, like you said earlier, the higher I go in leadership, the more money I make, the more responsibility. Man, everything's going to solve itself. And I tell people, no, more money, more problems, more authority, more problems, more responsibility, more problems. And so if we're not equipped to be able to identify, diagnose, and know how to engage and address those different challenges we're facing, it is, of course, just going to drive us deeper into whatever coping mechanisms, forms of medication, addictions, and all kinds of escape mechanisms to really cope with the fact that I am lonely, I am scared, I am uncertain. So those are the different symptoms that I normally run up against.
Yeah, I get it. And I think all of us run up against those at different times of life for different reasons. Absolutely. And every single time you get feedback like that conflict, the difference between what is wanted and what is not wanted, great. You're getting directions from the divine. Yeah. It's time for something to change. And the ironic thing that I've noticed, I'm sure you have too, when we want the external world to change, we want business to be perfect, we want everybody to love us, we want to have great relationships with everybody we know, something has to change on the inside first.
Right.
What do you notice great leaders are willing to shift to be able to show up that way?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is what we call just the practice of self-awareness. Before even we get to work with them, there is, there's got to be a moment of waking up to the pain of what they're in. And, the old saying that most people don't change until the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of change, because change is scary and it is disorientating. It is uncomfortable. So I understand that. So first they wake up to the fact that something's broken and they don't know how to fix it. And then we take them through a process of self-awareness. The leaders who are willing to take a really honest and humble look at what's going on internally, their mental kind of mindset, their emotional place that they are, their physical reality. As people are willing to take a hard look at what's going on internally, and to recognize how they are in fact impacting the environment around them. That's the biggest game changer, because we often tell leaders, like, you can't change what you can't see. So if you're not paying attention to yourself, like we often remind leaders, if the highest level athletes, performers in any industry in the world are spending hours and hours and hours of rewatching performances, either game tape or whatever performance that they're involved in, and paying attention to what's working, what's not working, where are they performing well, where are they still struggling, and then to ask the question, how do we make the proper adjustments? I tell people, you're already an amazing person, you're already an amazing leader, you've already accomplished so much, but if you want to rise to new levels and unlock new levels of potential, then you've got to learn how to, what we call, you've got to learn how to practice playback leadership. You've got to be able to play back the experiences that you've been engaged with, to identify and celebrate where you're operating in a way that is bringing life or a reward to the context, but also to recognize where you're operating poorly. And then to ask the hard question, what are the necessary adjustments that I need to make first with myself and how my attitudes, my behaviors, and then to commit to particular practices to flesh those out.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about doing an intention. Before we have the conversation, here we are collaborating on what we want to create together. So there's no misunderstanding, there's no confusion. It's all really clear. This is how we're going to create this experience.
Yes.
And when it's really easy for people to get on the same boat, and go, okay, and they'll give you a little bit of grace. If you go off tangent or something, they'll, okay, she'll work it back. Somehow this is going to be relevant. Don't know yet, but somehow she's going to get back there. I love your term of playback leadership. I just read the book Think Again by Adam Grant.
Yeah,
brilliant, brand new. Just read it. And it really reminded me of coaching. So hard, it's very difficult for us to think again.
That's right.
Because we're too close to it. We don't see our own blocks, our own barriers. It's a whole, and it's so ironic because the world is a mirror for us. What we see in the world is a reflection of how we are showing up and who we are being. So if the world isn't behaving the way we really want it to, it's time for something to shift. There's a really interesting exercise called 7-Day Mental Diet. With a 7-Day mental diet, you turn off the news, you turn off all the negative stuff that comes into your experience. You just stop exposing you. You don't watch the violent movies. You just cut all that stuff out for 7 days. And I've talked to so many people who are like, man, that's impossible. I mean, you're always hearing about the latest natural disaster, or a war or something horrible that's happening. Well, I had this epiphany when I was doing the 7-Day mental diet because I was sitting for guidance. And I'm like, why do you keep showing me this stuff? And I got this little tap on the shoulder. It's your turn. We're in partnership here, sweetie. This is how the divine does their work. You need to send love and blessings to every single person involved or impacted by whatever you just witnessed. That's your job.
Wow.
It's not to take it in and own it and go, oh, poor people, how sad. They aren't victims. They are blessed with the divine. They have to be willing to receive it. You have to give it.
That's right.
So stop playing small and step up. And I think that's really one of the key things that you're able to do with leaders. You're able to help them step up and own their own brilliance, share who they are, real, authentic. And vulnerability is one of the most important strengths anyone can have.
That's right. That's right. It's interesting. One of our core messages is around the power of personal responsibility. And I like to flip it on its head because when most people think of personal responsibility, they generally think accountability for what I've done wrong, where I've messed up, where I've dropped the ball. And when I tell people, I said, yeah, sure, that's it. That's also included in personal responsibility. But the greater challenge I have working with high-level leaders is them taking personal responsibility for, like you said, their brilliance, their strengths, their superpowers, what only they bring to any context, to any situation. Because it's important, I think, to recognize our weaknesses, dysfunctions, our own, struggles, and that's important. But only because we want to make sure they're not accidentally undermining the incredible wealth of value that each one of us can bring at any stage of our life, right? Because I have more value today at 40, almost 48, than I did at 38 or 28, and that's appropriate, right? Because the tree gets bigger over the years, right? And so there's more value that you offer to the forest around you, the bigger that you get. However, being able to unlock the true value that each one of us carries today and to release it into whatever context we're in, for me, is the purpose and the point of personal responsibility.
Absolutely. I love that. And, I think it's really important to track because sometimes you've got an intention, but you haven't expressed it overtly, or the way you're demonstrating your intention isn't effective. And so there's a disconnect between the intention and the experience. Sure. I started doing an exercise with a friend of mine. It's got to be 15 years now. And I call it my daily celebration. Every Monday through Friday, each of us sends the other person an email. And we bullet point out our celebrations from the day before, and we celebrate in advance what's going to happen today. Now, life happens, and so things change, and sometimes today doesn't turn out quite the way you expected. Right. But it's really incredible because I get her email. She's very different from me, and I love and adore this woman. She inspires me. I rave. I reply back to each line, and I'm like, wow, this is brilliant. Here's a book you should check out. Have you considered this resource? I'm so proud of you, and look at how you've grown here. And, I just get so high over her and her incredible progress. Yes. And so my energy's through the roof, and I send that email back. And then she sends me an email about me. I'm like, right. Who is this person? That's right. That's right. But the key thing, I first started this exercise when my parents were still alive, and I was not making as much progress on my business as I felt I should have. But when I started tracking my time, I realized I was spending a lot of quality time with my parents. And that is the most precious commodity we have.
That's right.
the most important commodity we have.
Yeah.
And so I finally was able to see for myself some of my skills and abilities and attributes and all that stuff that you were talking about, because we don't see ourselves clearly.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to see where we screw up.
What if, here's an interesting question. What if more people could recognize that by prioritizing their connection with their parents, whatever that looks like for them, is actually contributing to building a better business by prioritizing our relationship with our kids, right? Because we tend to see these things as a distraction from the mission that we're on to build a business, make a certain amount of money, and have whatever impact. And I think there's nothing wrong with the vision, the passion of building a business, wanting to make money and wanting to impact the world. But I think what happens is we lose sight of the fact that all of these other quote unquote distractions, if we could see them as, now there are legitimate distractions, sure, but the things that are actually most valuable in our life, if we could learn to prioritize them appropriately and to trust that by prioritizing in any given season our physical health, our relationships, our spiritual health, as you would say, I love that, we're actually doing the work that's going to contribute to a more effective business.
Faster than you might think. Because
faster.
all of these things, when you make them a priority and you talk to people about, here's my priority and here's why it's a priority for me, you're sharing your values, your core values. You're making it safe for them to make similar things a priority in their lives. You create such a profound connection. You immediately build relationships. It is not a weakness to show what your priorities are and what your core values are. Now, Eric, you know so much about leadership and how people can get there from here. Sadly, I don't think you brought your magic wand today. Bummer. But probably you can share one or two little things that we could do that would help us become better leaders.
Sure. The first thing I always love to encourage people with is to give ourselves permission to be on this journey of developing, growing, and exploring what does it mean to become a better version of ourselves. I think too often we feel like, wow, it's too late in the game. I'm too far down the road. I don't have time for this. I'm not sure what this looks like. But I think first and foremost, give yourself permission to be where you are, not where other people wish you were or you wish you were, to be where you are and to accept that you are on a journey. There's no ending point. It's continual. You're not in first place or last place or in the middle of the pack. You are right where you need to be today. That's the first thing I always remind leaders. And the second thing is to go back to that analogy that everything that you're looking for, that you think will bring you satisfaction, fulfillment, a sense of purpose in your life, in your very short years here on earth, is actually hidden within you. And so life and success and all the things you're looking for are not found by making the world around you look the way you want it to, but about exploring and unpacking and unveiling who you are and how do you get the best out of yourself.
I love that. I recently got a divine download. I was thinking about meaning and how we all have a deep need for meaning. And then I got this realization that your intention is truly your meaning. This is what I want this experience to mean. This is what I want to receive from this experience. That's the meaning that I'm giving it and that I want to receive back. So it starts with the intention. And when you are focused on contributing your gifts exactly as you are, warts and all, and you recognize that it is a process of growth. There's a reason why this show is called The Abundance Journey. It's actually an analogy for your life. You are continually unfolding, and every moment is designed to be a blessing for you. The problem is, most of us expect the blessing to show up exactly the way we want it to be, or we're not going to recognize it. And that's not how it works. It's like, no, it's more like a scavenger hunt, honey. Dig under the bushes, look, think again. Yeah, it's there. And Eric, you have provided So much wonderful information. The insights today have just been through the roof. I've got 2 pages of notes, and I have to pick just one to do the Activate Abundance segment on, which is thanks a lot for that, mister. But before we get there, you also very generously offered an amazing free gift. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. And I want to say to anybody who's listening to this podcast, please take advantage of this. We'd love to offer a free 1-hour coaching call, because what we want to do is have enough time and space to be able to hear what leaders are wrestling with, to understand a little bit of the landscape of their journey. And then our desire, our intention is not to try and sell them on a product or a service. It's to help them connect with whatever resources they're needing that will meet them where they're at and help them move the needle in their life. And so more than anything else, I think people just need someone who understands where they're at, who is ready to listen and ask good questions, and who can partner with them, even if it's just in taking one next step.
And that's such a good point that you made, because truly we are in partnership with the divine. And what most people don't realize is the divine is within you. It's flowing through you. And so there are resources out there that you can take advantage of that are completely free to you.
That's right.
So why not take Eric up on this? Because the guy's freaking brilliant, for one thing. And for another, he's a lot of fun to talk to. And you'll get some great ideas and insights that will really serve you in your life. So I encourage you to sign up for the call, and the information will be in the show notes. So it's really easy for you to get a hold of. Now, one of the things that we love to do here at the Abundance Journey is turn the tables on our guests, because we know that when we give is when we truly receive the most. So what can we do to support you?
I honestly, just the simplest thing I can say is to join us, not follow us. I don't like followership, that mindset on social media. I wish the blue button on Instagram, for example, said join, not follow. We don't want followers. We want people to join us in our journey, because we want to be able to join them in their journey. Whenever we release anything on whether our company's social media platform or my own personal platform, it's because we believe, like you said, that all of us interacting, sharing, rubbing shoulders, we're far more likely, number one, to learn from one another. We want to learn from the people that are joining our community. But also, I think, because we need community, even if it's, a distant, kind of digital or virtual community. I think as human beings, we're hardwired to live life in community with people who have some shared values, have some shared desire to grow and to become better versions of ourselves. And so we just encourage people, the simple thing that we want people to do is just join us.
That's wonderful. I will definitely be following you on social media, and I can't wait to see what you're posting about, because I know that it's going to be profound and incredibly valuable, considering all that I got out of this little conversation today. Wow. Eric, you're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making the time to join me today. I want everybody to stick around, because I'm going to figure out what we're going to activate abundance on, and it's going to blow your socks off. Be right back. Hi, it's Elaine, Starling, the Abundance Ambassador, and I know since you're listening to this show or watching this show, The Abundance Journey, you really want to experience more abundance in your life. Well, that's why I wrote the book, 5 Steps to Activate Your Abundance. It's available for sale right now from Amazon, from barnesandnoble.com, and many international sellers. And I want you to pick up a copy, because I'm really opening the kimono here and sharing all of the information you need to experience abundance in every single aspect of your life. The book's divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is called Meeting the Divine. This is where I share my near-death experience and the conversation I got to have with our higher power during my stroke. In Part 2, Messages from the Divine, I share the best practices that I was given, the secret sauce in how life actually works. And so you understand really why you're here and how you can make the most of your life. So you love every single moment. And then in the part 3 is partnering with the divine. That's where I go into each of the 5 steps to activate your abundance and explain exactly why it works so well. So take a moment to pick up a copy. It's available as an ebook, a paperback book, an audiobook, and a video course. So however you like to absorb information, abundance is waiting for you. Wasn't Eric incredible? I love his energy. I love his vibe. I love his sincerity. And he provided so many great tips. I was really struggling to figure out just one, so I'm going to cheat and combine 2 of them. I'm like that. Step 1 is gratitude. And I'm so grateful to Eric because, you don't usually think of somebody who's working with C-suite executives and others who are really determined to be great leaders to get it at the level that Eric gets it. He totally knows that it's an inside-out job. And what he's doing is helping people shift that inner person and have more awareness of who they are so that they can truly share their gifts effectively. How amazing. Because that's when you feel truly seen and heard, is when you are leveraging your gifts. So I'm very grateful to Eric for joining us today. Step 2 is to acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. I heard so many things. I'm going to cheat and add 2 of them together. One of them, he said, gratitude overcomes scarcity mindset. And you know me, I totally agree with that. Even my TED Talk, Abundance is a Choice. I'm talking about that, the poverty mindset versus the abundance mindset. Totally agree with that. And at the same time, Eric also said that he's helping leaders. Leaders are often very lonely, and it starts with self-awareness. That hit home to me. It really did. I'll tell you why. Appreciate the difference it can make in your life. When you are self-aware, you are grateful for every moment. You're grateful for what's showing up. You're grateful for your faults as well as for your skills and abilities. One of the messages that I got from the divine during my stroke, I heard this message, this is perfect. And somehow I knew they were talking about me. And I thought, there's no freaking way. I don't speak multiple languages. I haven't solved world hunger. I am not all that. And the divine replied, oh, you don't get it. You're designed with your skills, abilities, talents, interests, preferences, and your faults, your foibles, your hot buttons, your issues. All of that is put together to be exactly what is needed right now. You are perfect. You are perfect. And the reason why when I get into self-awareness with gratitude, now I can see the blessings that are present. Do you get this? It's a combo deal. Gratitude around self-awareness with gratitude. Those 2 are an incredible microscope that help you delve into your life and what's happening so you realize the blessings that are present and then you can receive them. It's up to you to recognize and receive the blessings. They're there all the time, in every moment. Remember we talked about knowing that everything is abundance? Yeah, this is how you get there from here. I could not be more grateful to Eric for sharing this idea with us. Okay, step 4, we're going to activate abundance. We've got 3 different ways we could do that. You can grab a calendar and schedule time. This also includes journaling. And when you're doing self-awareness, journaling is a very powerful tool to help you delve down into what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, what's going on, and what you want to have happen, your intention. Very important, journaling. Another way is to create a physical trigger. Maybe you cross your fingers or you tug on your earlobe as a reminder how you want to show up in the moment. That is a choice. And when you show up with gratitude for the moment, for the people you're connecting with, for the opportunity that awaits you, you have a totally different way of communicating with people. So yeah, cross those fingers. Remember to be gratitude, that self-awareness. I am projecting gratitude. That's a powerful way to show up. The third way to activate abundance is to declare it to someone else, especially if you've got an accountability buddy who will monitor what's going on and go, hey, are you being gratitude right now? I'm not really hearing the gratitude. That can make a difference in your life. That's why working with a coach is incredibly helpful. Frankly, I think all three are brilliant in this particular case. So I'm taking on all three of those because it really is important to me to have that self-awareness. And when I can show up with gratitude for the bumps and bruises as well as the, applause, that's really important because I have to see it all in order to receive all the blessings. So I'm really grateful to Eric for sharing all of this with us. And that's why we go to step 5, celebrate your progress. This is how abundance unfolds for you effortlessly, joyously throughout your life with every moment. You are the abundance you're looking for. Are you looking inside? Are you celebrating you? You are such a blessing and you are blessed. I'm blessed that you joined us today. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time for the Abundance Journey.
You've been listening to the Abundance Journey Show with Elaine Starling. Visit theabundancejourney.com/podcast gifts to access today's gift as well as gifts from our other guests. Tune in every week to activate abundance in your life and business. If something resonated with you, please share it with your friends so they can benefit too. Keep activating abundance and we'll see you in the next episode.